Good morning. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for coming. Great to see all of you. Appreciate your taking the time to be here. I'm Laura Jaramillo, the city manager. We have Tony Boyd with us, the county manager.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So typically we start out with a brief synopsis of what's going on in the city and the county, and then we open the floor up to suggestions, comments, feedback. That's very helpful for us to address the needs in our community. So I wanted to start out by giving an update on our library. Our library board and staff have been meeting with the contractors, and we're working with Facility Build, who is a construction company out of Albuquerque, and actually they work throughout the state, but they're working with us and we're doing the final touches to the design. We've finished the design for half the building, and we're going to be putting the new Lifelong Learning Center or library in the old Alco building on First Street. And that building is approximately 35,000 square feet. The library will take up half of that, and so we have that design pretty well laid out on what we want. And then the other half of the building, we're exploring some other partnership ideas of what we think might work well in there. The library board wanted to put a coffee shop, a small coffee shop, so that it might be a great hangout place for teenagers and would attract people to hang out at the library a little bit more than might be. So in the other half, close to the library in the very front, will be a coffee shop. And then we're looking at putting a training center in there. Possibly we want to invite the workforce development staff to have an office space there, because we already get a lot of people coming to the library and using the computers to look for jobs, fill out applications, so we thought it might be a good partnership. Eileen Yarbrough with the Economic Development Foundation is seeking some funding to do some training center options, and there's a program called Solo Works that you contract with companies that need somebody to do office work but at a remote location. So this program would train people, and then they could set up shop in the what we call an incubator setting in the library, which is a little office space. And they would have phone and internet and computer set up where they could do business on the phone and on the computer for companies that are not located in Grants. And there are companies that solicit for that type of work. So we're hoping that program will create jobs. I think some of you have probably seen the ad in the paper right now. I think they're looking to hire a director, and they're going to do a pilot project of that at NMSU Grants. And once we have a facility in our library area or in that building, then it'll possibly move to that location. Sacalares Boulevard is ready to start, where the construction companies will be working on that next week. And they will begin, it should take probably 3 to 4 weeks. They're going to patch where the road has deteriorated, and then they're going to do a chip seal over top. So that all starts next week. We've been replacing several water lines in town. We have several places where those neighborhoods have had multiple water breaks and have for years. So we just replaced a line on a small area of Truman Avenue. They are working on Stevens Avenue and almost complete with that. The council voted to do North Sage, and we'll probably be doing East Sage as well. And those are areas that we've had multiple breaks. We're not sure what happened this summer, but within a 2-week span, we had about 17 water leaks throughout town. And you know, we almost wondered if there had been some seismic activity or something going on, but we had quite a few water breaks all within a short span of time. You've probably heard our state is having a financial crisis, basically, and we had a special session started this last week, and they're finishing up some stuff, but they're pulling back funding and looking at cutting their state departments possibly by 5%. The City of Grants has a pot of funding that will possibly be cut. It's $225,000 for 2nd Street. So yesterday I spent a lot of time writing letters to the governor and to different people in the legislature asking them to reconsider taking that funding back, because we've already actually started construction on that phase of 2nd Street. We've had 2 prior phases, and we've started phase 3, and that's what this money was for. We have other funding that was allocated through the Department of Transportation, and we hope that we can save that funding. They're starting the demolition of the old jail up on the hill next week. We've gone through the process of removing the asbestos. It had quite a bit of asbestos. And then we did bids for the tear down. And KBK Construction, which is a local company, won the bid award, and they will start taking that down next week. The construction company finished Radio Street. Many of you may not know where Radio Street is. It's off of Zuni Canyon Road. I didn't really know where it was before I worked for the city, never heard of Radio Street, but it's in a neighborhood off of Zuni Canyon Road, and that area had a lot of water breaks, a lot of deterioration, and that community came together and went before City Council a few years ago and asked to have it redone. And so that was funded primarily through what's called CDBG grant from the state, and the city had to do some matching amounts of about $30,000. We are trying to work with the Department of Transportation to lower the speed limit on Santa Fe Avenue. And the reason for this is that we want to increase pedestrian traffic and start businesses up down there, and it's really hard to cross the street because the traffic is going so fast. We've also had people concerned now because of the new Sonic on Santa Fe Avenue. People are pulling out of there and trying to do a U-turn. I noticed they put up a no U-turn sign now right there, but we've gotten complaints that it's quite dangerous because of the traffic. So the DOT, I kind of put the word out there that that's what we would like, and they're considering it and having some meetings, and we'll start those discussions. And just so you know, there are several no U-turn signs all the way, on the end of Grants down by McDonald's and going towards Milan. Those are not implemented by the city. They are implemented by the Department of Transportation. And we do not like those either. I think at one point the former city manager had taken them down, and I think he got in trouble from the DOT, and they had to put them back up. But somebody's asked me for us to try to work with them on that as well, that it just seems a little overkill there and makes it very inconvenient for people to try to get back, go in the other direction if you've gone to McDonald's or one of those establishments. We're working on an energy project. We are working with Siemens, which is a national company, to come in and do an energy audit for the city, and they will make some recommendations to us of things that we can upgrade and change so that in our wastewater treatment plant and in our water meters and lights in the city and some of our units, heating and cooling in our buildings, that we can upgrade those so that we're not wasting so much energy. The food pantry has come to the government entities, and they're requesting some funding and some support. And so I wanted a little bit of feedback. I think we all agree that the food pantry serves a very important need here in our community, and with the multiple layoffs, they're indicating they're already seeing an increase of clientele coming and needing assistance with food. They get food from Walmart, Brooks, and Smith's. They get things like bread and produce and potatoes, things like that. Once they're close to expiration and the store is not really able to sell them anymore, but they're still a good product, they give them those items. So they get quite a bit there. They get food truck coming in at least monthly from the Roadrunner Food Bank that gives out commodities to families. And if you're a family that qualifies by your income, then you get a distribution of food from that. And we have about 500 and some families that are utilizing that. So they've come to the government entities and they're requesting some support, and I just kind of wanted a little bit of feedback because I always, a lot of people come to the city wanting funding, and we have a lot of needs of our own, and so I wanted to know as taxpayers what your thoughts are on funding something, the city contributing to something like the food pantry.
Well, I'll tell you this much. The Baptist Convention in Mexico sends them money, and our church sends them money. It's in our church budget. So they've been getting money from two entities there, and whatever the city or the county does for them. Because the county's fixed their roof for them.
We've done some things for them in the past. We helped them get a new freezer, and we've done some painting down there and some minor repairs to the building in the past, yes.
The Rotary Club did the roof. They did a fundraiser and raised the money for the roof. I know Comcast Cares came in a few years back, and we were a part of an initiative that went in and did some things for the building. So I know at one point, and I don't know if it's still happening, but I had heard when it got started, Reuben Thomas, the minister at the Methodist Church, rounded up all the churches, and they are several, and they took turns each month paying the mortgage payment, and the building's paid off. Doing some research, the council has asked me to do some research, and the building actually, it looks like it belongs to the pantry in Gallup. It's listed under them under the assessor's side. And we are an affiliate of the pantry out of Gallup. There was a little bit, John asked, the new director indicated that we're no longer an affiliate, but I talked with their director and we are under the pantry in Gallup. They have the 501c3 that this one operates under. And she said they do provide the insurance for the building, and they do provide assistance with upgrades to the building.
And I know through working through emergency management that there are several groups throughout the nation that will help with food pantries, especially during hard times and during disasters. But even beyond that, they will help on a daily basis, food pantries that give out food daily to community members. So I think one option they have is contact some of those, and I know several of them are church groups as well. So
Yes.
As I listened to his presentation at the city council meeting, my feeling was that he was ill-prepared and some of the information was incorrect. There have been some questions about how the food pantry has been run in the past, and I think those things need to be investigated, and I would really like to see, before the city gets involved with anything, a written proposal of what they want. But I agree with what Tony's saying, because I know that the LDS Foundation will help with, they have bishop storehouses all over the country, and they will help. If you write them like a grant and send it in, they're very helpful. There are other ways to do that, and I think those things should be exhausted before we start tossing our money into that hole.
That was kind of my perspective as the city manager, that the community will donate for charity and for people needing food and things like that. They're not going to give the city more money to fix the sidewalks. They're going to say, oh, here's $50, let's do more for the sidewalks. So I just like to be careful on how we spend our taxpayer dollars, and what's the true purpose of those, and what would each taxpayer want us to do with their money. So I like to be real careful. Were you going to say something, Robert?
I went by to speak with Mr. after the presentation on Monday night at the city council, and I agree. I think probably the man is not terribly used to making presentations to groups, and we talked for 30 minutes or maybe longer, and on a one-on-one basis, and he took me through the facility. I don't think my uninformed capabilities are pretty uninformed as far as building and construction is concerned, but the building appears to be, it has some minor problems, but it doesn't seem like it's a major situation. I know Rotary, as you just mentioned, spent a considerable amount of money replacing the roof a couple of years ago.
No, the reason why you might not have made a good presentation is
Excuse me?
because, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, I was gonna say, when Emily ran it, she was local, okay?
Yes.
This man lives in Cottonwood, Arizona. That's why they have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday now instead of Friday, because he comes from home and stays here for like 3 days.
Right.
And so that's probably why he's new to it, and he's also out of stater. So that's probably why his presentation and whatever he was doing, because it was run a long time by Nendali, you know, she did it, okay, she had her health reasons, because for, you know, she couldn't do it anymore. And so he took over, but when they hired him, Gallup hires him, Gallup's the
Okay.
one, that's what you're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, and so anyway, he did it before in Arizona, and then they closed one there, so he came over, but he doesn't live here. So when he made the presentation, he's kind of...
Right, and he's new, yes.
If I may finish, please.
I'm sorry, excuse me.
Having looked at the pantry, having talked with him, and I know he commutes back and forth, he had some good points, and it was suggested at the council meeting, and I reinforce that we need to do some sort of a community fundraiser, because the need and what they provide, the need for what they provide is growing with the economy here in Grants. And I think the private sector, i.e. the churches, Rotary, the chamber, and interested citizens can band together and maybe have some kind of, I know the Rotary, when we raised money for the roof, it was several, I don't know, thousands of dollars. And I suggested that. He said, I really don't have time to develop a fundraiser, which I can understand. He was very busy that morning. But, you know, if we could somehow channel these concerns, they're not going to get less in the foreseeable future. And maybe the private sector could come together under some umbrella and help out.
And Robert, I think you're right. I think one of the best ways to do it is through community fundraising.
Well, that does two things. It raises money, it raises awareness, and it's a kind of
Exactly.
a PR thing for the business.
Exactly. And I think there's also other options, like I stated. I know Southern Baptist is
Yes.
one of them. There's a Southern Baptist organization.
The Episcopal Church has.
Yes, the Episcopal Church has one.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of them out there that and I can get that list through emergency management, and
If
I
we
can get
could
that.
harness those resources.
Correct.
I think maybe we could do some good.
Mike.
John?
Well, one of the things that, and I may be misinformed, but from what I understood, there is no board of directors here in the Grants pantry.
There's
here.
no-
Town of Gallup has a board of directors.
But don't you think that it might be a good idea for Grants to have its own board of directors of citizens that are concerned, that could help, like this gentleman, and I don't know him, and I don't want to sound like I'm picking on him, but it could help direct him in the way that he wants to go. I think that, you know, just somebody to advise him, to help advise him and help make decisions.
Even
Because, I mean,
an advisory board.
Right, maybe an advisory.
When they started out, my wife was one of the original members, okay? She was on the committee. We had a local one. They had a local, you know, she was one of the, when Newman founded it, my wife was one of them involved, you know? And so, I don't know what happened, but they don't meet anymore. But she was one of the original, what do you call it, council members. Okay, I don't know what happened to the local one, but she used to be on it, but she's not on it anymore, so.
According to him, that board is no longer exists.
It doesn't exist anymore, no, because she's not on it anymore.
Yes.
I don't know if I have a proper understanding of it, but if it's affiliated with Gallup, if Gallup's doing the hiring and all that, who's in control of all this money they get?
Good point.
And we should be in control. Our community should be in control, not Gallup.
Right, because if that-
How much of that money
I was
is
just
going
gonna
to
say, how much
Gallup, or
is gonna
are
go to
they going to
Gallup?
split that money? That really concerns me, and our taxpayer dollars, we need to know where that money's
Yeah.
going.
The director in Gallup indicated the money gets deposited here at Wells Fargo. It gets accounted for out of Gallup. But Gallup's writing lots of grants for theirs. She said she had just completed 14 grants. So I don't know if she incorporates ours in that. I started looking, and I'm not done. I just started yesterday. If you go on the Attorney General site and you search for nonprofit charitable organizations, I looked to see if we had a local one, and we do not, but the Gallup does, and it lists us as a part of their affiliation. So it says their board oversees their pantry and ours. But their financial report showed $4 billion in some, and I was like, oh my gosh. But if you look at it real closely, if I'm looking at it right, $3 million of that is the food that probably comes in from the Roadrunner Food Bank. But still, they're bringing in somewhere around $600,000 to $800,000 a year in grants and donations and stuff, and so.
Well, if they're in charge, why aren't they writing grants for us?
Right, yeah, that's
So whoever's in charge isn't doing a very good job if we're not.
Right.
And I know if the Roadrunner Food Bank is involved, they do a lot of fundraisers throughout the state, not only for money, but also just for people to drop off goods. They have the one where the post office picks it up. They also have other drop-off points throughout the year where they'll do major things, especially around the holidays coming up like Thanksgiving and Christmas. They'll take not only non-perishable goods, but they'll also take frozen turkeys. You have to drop them off certain places so they can be put immediately into a refrigerator or freezer. But there's no reason we can't do something like that here. We do stuff for the coats for the kids, shop with the cops, you know, for the kids at Christmas. So I think it'd be good if we could just organize something for them, for just our local people, and ensure that whatever we do, the food collected goes locally.
Joe, did you have a
About
comment?
4 years ago, I did a photo series of the food bank in Gallup, and the young lady, I can never pronounce her name, she was the director, and I rode up there with them. And in talking to the directors up there, because they had done an opening of their new facility up there, I was asking a lot of the questions that people are asking here. The food bank in Grants was assimilated into Gallup because nobody in Grants at that time took the time, effort, or energy to incorporate. The money and all this that we're talking about now cannot basically be sitting there going out because of the federal, you know, the 501c3 regulations. They can't create a board here because it's under their umbrella. Now, we can sever the organization here and they can start their own, but that's going to mean people in the community are going to have to take the time, effort, and energy to do so, and then participate in the board and not be apathetical about it.
Yeah, now the board, when they used to meet, because I went to
Right.
board meetings with my wife, okay? And then the Gallup person would come down and meet with the board, okay? Yeah. And my wife and I used to volunteer at the pantry for years, and they'd have me unload the trucks, because the truck would come in from Gallup, the semi-truck, you know, and you have to unload all the stuff. And, but the board somehow got dissolved, because my wife's no longer on the board,
Right.
and we used to go to the board meetings, and somehow, I don't happen to the local board, but like you said, it somehow got
It was dissolved because it had to be dissolved because it was absorbed by the Gallup's agency and they covered it under their 501c3. It's their board. Now, the organization here, if members of the community wish to do so, they can create their own board, they can file the paperwork, they can do everything, but that just means one more organization that people are going to have to take legal responsibility for.
Right, and volunteer.
And volunteer and take the time and the energy.
From what I saw, Reuben Thomas, the minister at the Methodist Church, was the whole
He started everything.
energy behind ours and getting it going and getting a building and getting it developed. And I think once he left, I don't know that anybody wanted to really step up and take that role.
Well, if there is a board and it's based in Gallup, and I wasn't aware that of all these rules and regulations, but if there is a board which oversees not only the Gallup facility, but the Grants facility, it only makes sense to have a representative from Grants be there. And if it's just, you know, a group of people, residents from Gallup overseeing both facilities, it's only natural that Gallup is going to be the one to get the biggest slice of the pie. So, you know, maybe it's up to our community, maybe the director must ask to say, okay, you know, we need to have 1 or 2 members from the community, and find those 2 individuals or 1 individual, whatever, that is willing to drive to Gallup for these meetings and to fight for us. I mean, because I mean, if we have no representation, then we're going to get, you know, we're at their mercy, and we're going to get whatever's left over, and it's not right.
Yeah, the dollars that he quoted to me are substantial. And I think you verified that.
Yeah, it looks like there's quite a bit of money that, I'll have to ask, I want to see the budget for this one here, and I had asked Mr. Ask for it, and he wasn't able to give it to me, so I may be able to get it through the Gallup office to see like how much does our pantry generate in funding, what do they expend it on?
And another thing, if we have no representation and we as a community generate all this, you know, fundraising and we generate funds for the pantry, it's automatically going to go to the mothership. And again, you know, from all that, what do we get? We want, you know, what we raise, we want for us,
Right.
it's for, you know, for our neighbors.
She did act like the money we generate here stays here. They do the accounting for it, she said.
When I went to Gallup, that was one of the things I asked. And they specifically did say, you know, like Laura's explaining, it has to be covered under their umbrella for tax purposes. Otherwise, it has to be reported somewhere. But the dollars that are raised here stay here. And there is representation on the board. It is the person who works at the pantry. Now, if the individual is commuting back and forth from another community, if he doesn't have the time and the energy, I mean, it's not government's responsibility to do this. Maybe the organizations within the churches, concerned citizens within the community want to take part of it, but it's not Tony's, Laura's, or the state's issue to do this. I mean, it's incumbent upon the people in this room and outside of this room.
If you were to offer a job for someone to do it and pay them, would that mess up the nonprofit?
No, I
Because if
believe,
it's a paid position, you could advertise for someone that has, you know, they're just not giving their life to it. I mean, their
Right.
actual job, and then you're going to have somebody motivated
right,
because you're getting
the
paid for a job.
director for it now is Mr. Ask, and he is a paid employee. I'm guessing it's a part-time position, because he's only there, I think, 3 days a week.
He's the
so.
only one paid. Everybody
Yeah.
else is volunteers, and you have a lot of 80-year-olds out there and 70-year-olds volunteering, you know. And even Dwight, when he left the tire company, he does too. But there's a lot of people that have been there for years that are still in their 80s that were volunteering.
Right.
And so it's all based on volunteers. If you don't have the volunteers, it won't go far. There's still all those people that are retirees that are volunteering.
Yeah.
With all the unemployment.
Even if he's only temporary, if he's the director, would that not be part of his job responsibility or his job title
Yes.
Yes.
to represent us in Gallup?
Yes, yeah. And typically on the board of directors, you don't have paid staff members. I looked at their list of directors, now this was from 2014, and there was nobody from Grants, and there was about 12 people. But, you know, maybe that's something we could rally for, see if we can generate some enthusiasm and request. We'd like 1 or 2 members on the board so that they can advocate for our needs and work in partnership with Gallup and sharing resources and all of that. But it's going to take some people stepping forward in our community and you know, putting some energy forward. And I think there are those people out there. I think if we can help the current director try to rally that and seek those people. And they're probably going to be people that are coming from the churches and the various churches that will help support that entity.
You know, the other thing I was thinking is, I don't know what happened to the board, because when they had the other board that my wife was on, I would go to the meetings too. They would have representatives from Gallup come here. The leaders would come here and talk to the board. You know, and the board meetings were here and they didn't have to go anywhere. But I don't know how that changed, but something happened and all of a sudden, you know, my wife and all of a sudden we just eliminated the board she was on.
Yeah, maybe we can find out. I don't know if somebody has contact with Mr. Thomas Rubin.
Oh,
He probably lives in Albuquerque, I'm guessing. I'm not sure, but Barbara?
Well, just a few comments that are different from what we've already discussed. First of all, we have Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up. And traditionally, the food bank has provided turkeys for those families. And last year, I think they did about 12 or so, perhaps a few more. And then there's another thing that they do is, and I think the Rotary Club has been very much involved in it, and that is the backpacks for the children. We have a number of children in our community that go home and have nothing over the weekends. And thanks to the Rotary Club and raising money for that endeavor, those youngsters are not going hungry over the weekend. And I believe Alice Pettis is the new director. She's only been in that position for a few months. So she's feeling her way as well. And as an organization, Seven Cities Productions does all of their advertising without a cost. We've supported them. For those of you that have boxes, they still they turn that in and they receive some compensation for the cardboard boxes that they recycle. And then plastic bags are still needed. There's a number of things, but over the years when Reuben Thomas was here, I would go in and visit with Reuben, and the pantry was full, overflowing with canned goods and food and so forth. You go in today and there is nothing in the pantry. In fact, one day last week, they closed the pantry because they were out of food. So there's a crisis at the pantry besides the things that we've discussed so far, and those things are legitimate discussions, but I think we need to look at what are we going to be doing for our community right now.
The thought of people in this community going to bed hungry, particularly children, is totally unacceptable to me, and I think a lot of people share that.
And I think not only in our county, but in our country in general.
Well, yes.
And, you know, and how do we change that culture? It's very difficult because
It is very good.
we've got to get our state representatives, our national representatives on board and create legislation that will allow us to assist our own communities in this country and in our state before we assist others outside of our area.
Amen.
Great.
We're regulated.
Yeah, we're regulated to death, is correct.
I'm just going to touch on a couple of more things and then I'll turn it over to Tony. The mayor has been going and meeting with the tribes regarding the possibility of paving a road to La Mosca Lookout. And some of you may have heard about this in the paper, but the idea came forward by a citizen, and it's an economic development idea that if we pave the road, it's paved up to the end of the pavement.
Up to right at
What
post
I call
office.
it, yeah.
Yeah, post office, not post office flats, Pinion Flats.
Pinion Flats. Yeah, I don't know the name there. We just call it the end of the pavement. And there's about 9 more miles that would need paving. But it would be the highest road in New Mexico, the highest paved road in New Mexico. So we think that that would create a lot of economic opportunity, people coming to drive that. And I guess Colorado has similar things. And
With Pikes Peak.
They advertise that and people want to go and drive the highest paved road. So, of course, there's all the controversy over the TCP and Mount Taylor. So the mayor and Les Gaines is a community member that came up with this idea, presented it to us, and we thought it was great. So we've been going, we've met with Acoma, and yesterday they met with Zuni, and we need to make a meeting with Laguna. But we're just kind of trying to consult with them and talk about the possibilities it would make for all of us in our county. So that's something that we're working on.
And I also think it'll be in the top 5 in the nation for the highest paved roads for
Right.
tourism and stuff, so.
Right, so it might open some doors for us in economic development. Tessa from the chamber wanted me to remind you this weekend is our fall fiesta, and so we hope that all of you will come out and join in that celebration. I'll turn it over to Tony.
All right, well, good morning. A couple things that we've been working on. We've completed 2 cleanups along Route 66. One was out by Cabarro. They got 125 bags of trash collected in about a 3-mile stretch. And then they've also done a cleanup that incorporated part of Milan in order to get ready for some festivities coming up there. I think we've got one more to do, which is going to be in Milan for a public cleanup, and I believe it's actually this weekend, I think.
I think
I
you're
can't
right.
remember the date, but I think it's this weekend. So we did do that with some grant money that our projects coordinator, Judy Horacek, was able to get through the New Mexico Clean and Beautiful Act. Our road department has completed its co-ops, which is the improvement to some of the county roads, resurfacing, hauling gravel, grading, putting up signage, striping, and sealing the road. So they've completed that just in time, because now that the cold weather's here, they can't do chip sealing when it doesn't stay above 50 degrees for a certain number of hours during the day. Our detention center, we still need, excuse me, we still need to hire about 6 to 8 additional staff out there. We have hired some. Few of them have come from CCA in Milan, and I know that's a big thing with everybody. But we also had a few that never showed up to start their academy, and one that actually wound up quitting during the academy. So we still remain down as far as personnel. We still have our position open until December. We extended the date, the deadline for it. So if you know of anybody that really wants to have a job, they need to go. I'm sorry? 6 positions. Okay, so it's only 6. So we've still got 6 positions open. So if you know anybody that's really looking for a job and wants to work, let them know. They can apply on our website. They can fill that out and submit it that way. Print it and then bring it in, and all we have to do is notarize it, and they'll be good to go. Also along the lines with detention, we are still looking at options for our detention center. We have talked with CCA. We have another meeting scheduled with them next week, so I'm hoping we can work something out. We've also got some other options that we're looking at in case this doesn't come through with CCA. We are trying to get more inmates in that are paying beds. Dodds and I have met with the BIA, and that is looking promising at this point. They're still coming out. They still want to come out and look at the facility. So we don't know which way we're going to go just yet with the facility, whether we may farm our inmates out to another facility to try to cut costs for the county, because what is happening is that as there's a trend in the state right now where cities and municipalities, even the small villages and stuff, are putting people, instead of going to their local court, they're citing them into magistrate court. A lot of it is traffic violations, DWIs and stuff, where they're not showing up to the local court, so then they get put it in magistrate court. If they go to magistrate court on warrants for not showing, for their court date or whatever, and magistrate sentences them, then it becomes the state problem, which becomes the county problem, because we have to pay for it. If the city sentences someone, city pays for it. If the village of Milan were to sentence someone under their court, Milan would pay for it. But when it goes to magistrate court, the county winds up paying for it. And it's costing us $57 a day, Mike, is our average cost for it. 58. So that's what it cost us, and we get very little of that back from the state. So even if somebody goes to district court and they're sentenced to 365 days or less, they get put in detention centers. And that is a problem throughout the state, not only with us. And I've got 2 meetings scheduled, one with McKinley and one with, I believe it's Eddy County, to discuss this same issue they're having. Grant County just looked at getting their inmates sent out somewhere else as well because they're having that same issue. And down there, now everything, anybody that gets cited into any type of court is going into magistrate court. They're basically shutting their city court down, is what they're doing. So this is a problem throughout the state, and we're really hitting the legislatures on it. The Association of Counties is behind us. However, as you all are aware, the state budget issues that we're having, and that is going to affect municipalities and counties. The state is talking a minimum 5% cut in all their areas. We don't know where it's going to go just yet because that's what this special session is supposed to be about. And I know the Senate goes back in session today to look at some additional bills. There's 3 bills that were submitted. I believe it was Senate Bill 2, 6, and 8. And in those 3 bills, it will take money away from the counties and municipalities. It will severely cut funding to local DWI groups, and it takes funding away from your local fire departments as well. So we're having a real issue with it right now. We don't know exactly where it's going to get settled, but at worst case, there's just not going to be much money there for our local governments to run on and operate and do things beyond what we just absolutely have to do. So it's not looking good right now, but we'll have to see where that goes. One thing that we've been getting calls on is some additional lights in certain areas. In Milan, off of Elkins Road, there's a few places that have dark intersections. So we've been looking at trying to place lights there. And I know Continental Divide just started their LED program, and that was part of the holdup. So we're trying to find out what it's going to take to get some lights put up on Rodeo Road off of South 53, and then on some of the intersections in Milan off Elkins that are in the county, as well as some out here at Mount Taylor Edition, because a lot of people are really complaining out there that it's dark, and the crime is high out there too. There's a lot of break-ins, auto burglaries, and just a lot going on. So we're looking at ways to help put in some lighting, and we probably will be applying for some grant money for that as well. There's a few programs where we can do that. So look for that in the future. And I know everybody has been asking about the greenhouse out here. I can tell you that the first half of the back taxes were paid last Friday on September 30th. So he did make his payment on that. So where it's going to go now, what he's going to do with it, I do not know. I know there was supposed to be a press release a couple weeks ago put out where Bright Green Grow Group and Pueblo of Acoma are now entering into an agreement to put a greenhouse out there. So I haven't heard anything about what's going to be done with this one once his taxes are all paid. And then our new administration building on Roosevelt is still continuing along. It still looks like it'll be sometime in November when the actual construction will be completed. We should be able to move in hopefully either late November or sometime in December. And if anybody would like to go up there and take a tour of it, let me know. I know I took Joe last month up there, took him through it, and it's really coming along very fast now. So we will be in there before the end of the year if everything goes okay, if we don't run into any snags. So, any questions for me? Ralph?
We're going to put the recycling. I understand they're going to be moving it out of Alco. Where's it going to go?
Yes,
now?
we're going to try. We hired J&K Landscaping to do some cleanup around there since we're so shorthanded with our detention officers out of detention. And he's gonna be cleaning up, I understood it was supposed to be this week, but it may be next week. But he's gonna clean up the area around the old First National drive-through bank, and we're gonna put those in that parking lot. Because we don't know if we're gonna be able to do any paving or anything at the new administration building right now because of the temperatures. I know we're not gonna be able to do some chip seal. Plus, we don't want them out there where the construction workers may hit them or something. So we figured that's not a good place yet until we get completely moved in. So we're gonna set them over there. We've just gotta get that area cleaned up a little bit first. Yes, ma'am?
We had talked about maybe the marshals
Yes.
sending more prisoners. Has that been addressed?
We've actually done our new contract. We've sent that in for their review. We just got an email yesterday, I believe, and Director Dodds has been working on it. We have to resubmit some things. They had some questions. So once we get that settled and we get the new rate in, we hope they will send us more. Right now, we're down to, I believe, last count I had 64? 67. So it's dropped a little. Our highest count has been, I think, 80 or a little over 80 in the last couple of months. So it has come up, but it's also dropped. And they're the type that, since they're pre-trial, they come in and then they go out. So there may be times we'll be high for a few days and then they'll transfer some out. And then if they get sentenced when they go to court, then they go off to someplace different. So it fluctuates quite a bit on us. That's why we're looking at trying to get the BIA inmates in here. Because when we did meet with the BIA, they have 2 facilities that they send them to. One is in southern Arizona, southeastern Arizona. Do you remember the name of the town?
No, I don't.
I can't remember. Yuma. It's down in Yuma. And then one is up in Toya, Colorado. So it's a long ways for them to transport when their court sentence somebody. So they really like the idea of being near their court systems here, and also with ACL Hospital only 15 minutes away, they really like that aspect too.
And this is for the building in Milan that CCA still owns?
No, this would be for ours if we do that.
Okay.
Now, we don't know exactly how it's going to work out if we go to Milan or anything yet. That's still up in the air. We've just really, we've had one meeting with them and now we're having a second one. So we'll have to see where that goes for now. But we are trying to figure out if what we're going to do with our facility, basically.
Right.
Because of all the additional costs to the county. I'm sure some of you have read in the paper, we're putting in, on average, the last few years is about $2.5 million a year into that facility just to maintain it. And our revenue stream coming in is only at 1.5. So we've done some improvements. We have become PREA compliant. They are working on getting their Association of Counties accreditation as well. So we continue to move forward with it, but it is costing the county, and we are trying to figure ways that we can lower our cost and still maintain our prisoners that we have to. So we continue to work on that, and we will until we actually come up with a good plan for what to do.
Looks like Roseanne has a question.
Roseanne.
I have a question for the city more than the county.
Okay.
Does the city meter the water that's used for the parks and recreation? I mean, do you know how much? Okay.
Some of the parks, the meters are not in place, and so that's something we've talked about we need to work on.
And is it metered for the cemetery?
Yes.
There's a lot of water that goes down the street every day, and it's been doing it for months. And
That's
I
what you
understand
said down.
They were resodding part of it, but
Right.
it's still continuing.
Yeah.
I have another meter question.
Uh-huh.
The new construction at Los Alamitos at the middle school,
Uh-huh.
was that water use metered?
Yes, those contractors have to come and get a permit, and then they go and put something on the meter so that they can tell how much they're using, and the contractor pays it.
Okay, that's what I was wondering about, because I saw, with the fire hydrant and stuff that it was there.
You're right.
I wondered how that worked.
Right.
Okay, And the water that the city uses for its buildings and so forth, that gets metered?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
who pays for it?
The city we pay our water bill as
You pay
well.
yourself.
Mhm.
You
Right.
pay your own bill.
Right.
I was just curious about that, how it works.
Yeah.
Okay, but not all the parks have.
No, and that's one thing our director in the water department has brought up, because when we look at our reports on the amount of water we're pumping and the amount we're
Right.
billing, there's a big deficit. And so
Right.
that's part of what this energy company is going to come in and do, is help us look and find leaks. And part of the issue is our water meters are old. A lot of them are 20, 30 years old, and they're not calibrated right. And so we need to upgrade and replace those. And then, of course, then people's water bill will go up, and they won't like that. But there's a lot of water lossage that we can't account for.
So you think eventually the plan will include having meters for all the parks, so the city will know how much
Yes.
they're using for the
Yes.
parks?
Yeah. That way we can track all of our water we're pumping.
Okay, that was my question.
Just
Well-
may not be relevant, but on news they're talking about that new veteran cemetery coming in Gallup. Are we involved in that in any way?
We tried to get it here, from my understanding, but it went there, and as far as I know, there is nobody from here involved in it.
Okay, just curious.
Nancy,
Anything?
did you have anything? I know you came today.
Yeah, I did. I was a little bit disappointed and concerned about what I read in the paper about the liquor license being approved on Allsup's on First Street. Because there is the high school and there's 2 churches and there's a daycare just right around the corner. So my concern is, I know that the Allsup's on Santa Fe has a liquor license, and then Roosevelt, now First Street. So my concern is that they're probably going to want one on the Allsup's on Nimitz, and I live right next door. So I don't want them to get a liquor license there. Excuse me. So what I want to know is, will the city let me know if Allsup's one day wants to have a liquor license there, or am I going to have to just read in the paper?
The city's required to post that there will be a hearing regarding transfer or development of new liquor licenses. And we did that with the one on First Street. We did it up with the one on Roosevelt. I don't think I was at the city yet when the one on Roosevelt got passed, but I know initially we got lots of calls at the city, and they went to the city clerk, but I heard about them, people concerned, but when it came time for the hearing, there was not a soul there that was there to complain or concerned about it. And the council, I was kind of shocked, they went ahead and tabled it. And so then we had to go through another 30 days of posting it, putting it in the newspaper. But I realize now that some people still said they didn't know about it. So I think we as the city, we don't have to, we just have to put a public announcement in the paper. But I think we need to do a better job of notifying residents so that if there is a concern, that they are aware this is coming and have the opportunity to express a concern.
Yeah, because I would like to know before.
And you know, our clerk, she kind of understands the law better than I do. She's had to deal with that because she's the one that has to do the postings and stuff. And she seemed to feel that no matter what we did, the state was going to pass it anyway. But my philosophy is that that doesn't matter. We still need to do our part and say, no, we don't want this, or we do want this. And if the state overrides us, at least we did our part.
Yeah, because I think just because the state, they qualify doesn't mean that we have to approve it.
Right.
Yeah, because on Santa Fe Avenue up to McDonald's, down to Walmart, to Smith's, and down on First Street, there's already 9 places that have liquor licenses.
Right,
I don't think that we need another.
I know we had a lot of issues once they put the liquor license on Roosevelt. Then some transients and people are hanging out in there. They're hanging around the Children, Youth, and Family building. They're hanging around our park on Truman. In fact, my husband hadn't been with me the other night. I would have run some people off, but he was like, no, you stay in the park. But, you know, it just bothers me when you know, people are hanging out in our parks doing drug deals and stuff like that. You know, we were gonna crack down on that, but I see the issues, and now we're gonna have that around First Street as well. And I'll tell you, Allsup's has not been very responsive to our request to clean up their lots and stuff, and by gosh, I'm gonna put a lot of pressure on them now. You got your liquor license approved, and you better be contributing to our community. I've never heard of Allsup's making any donation for anything in our community towards our civic programs, and I couldn't even get them to clear up that lot on Roosevelt. Our code enforcer contacted them, and then I called the guy finally. You know, they cut these limbs down and then they left them there for months, and I'm like, you can't cut them and make them a little smaller and put them in your dumpster a few each week or something. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I take care of that. Between my house and Allsup's, I try to keep that area clean because I pick up bags and cups and
Oh, I bet.
wrappers.
Is
And
yours
I don't
the-
want to be picking up liquor bottles.
Is yours the first house right there after you pass Allsup's?
Yeah, right on there.
Yeah, I've seen,
Where all those kids walk.
I've seen people there, because I used to live over on Alamo years ago. And there's people that come out, get the stuff out of their bag because it's only one item or whatever, and then let the bag go.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah, they should be out cleaning up the area around there as something to help with their local community.
So I think we need to hold people more accountable, these businesses.
Why aren't they fined? If where's Mr. Windhorst?
No.
My weeds get more than 4 inches, I get a fine. We need to sock a fine to them if they're not cleaning up their
Well,
property.
you know, it's interesting though. I've got to go back and cut this one tree for the preschoolers over there over there. The preschool, you know, that's on
Mountain Road?
Mountain Road. Because I took a whole bunch of logs away and branches, and then they asked me to go get the one by their fence, which I'm going to get pretty soon. But the electric company comes in and takes it down and throws it on their fence.
Right.
And so anyway, I hauled a bunch away with electric company before, so I told them I'd come over with my chainsaw and get that big one.
Yeah.
I picked up all the other ones for him. The guy asked me at the preschool, can you get it off our fence? So in another week, I'll get it off the fence for him.
Yeah.
But I don't know what they do. They cut them down and just throw them there.
They hire a contractor to come and trim those off the lines, but yeah, I guess they figure they're the property owner's responsibility to haul them off because probably the trees are on our property.
Well, I just laid them up against their fence. So anyway.
Yeah, I think it's Asplund that they contract with.
They got a new guy from Blue Water now.
Yeah, oh, do they now?
Yeah, they don't use Ashland.
Oh, because I know they used to have a chipper shredder where they just run them in there and fill up their truck.
Anyway, the guy, I'm going to do it for him. He asked me to do it. The preschool person, he says, you know, if you look there, you'll see this big, huge log by the fence. Anyway, but I just happened to be cleaned up a little bit there, and he asked me to do it, so I'll take care of it for him. But yeah, I don't know why they do that. They cut them now, and they just throw them. They don't do anything with them.
So Nancy, you know, while I'm at the city, we'll try to do a stronger effort to get the information out there, whether it's flyers in those neighborhoods and get a youth group to distribute them, a front page ad, because I know I don't always look at the public notices in the back, so I'm guessing other people don't either.
Well, once you read them, you don't know what they're talking about anyway.
That's true, they're written by the attorneys.
It's like, my
Laura, if you'll let
what's
me
it
know
for?
and send it to me, we'll actually put it on our website as well. for you.
Yeah, I think we could do a better effort. But I know the first round we were getting calls and not anyone came to the meeting, so I was shocked. And I was the one that I think got the council to table it because I said, you know, that corner lot belongs to the Methodist Church, and nobody knew that. And I said, that's where the bounties should be. So they tabled it, and at least it gave a little more time, but then again, nobody came to complain. And our council was kind of like, well, the state's gonna override us anyway. I'm like, that doesn't matter. We still need to say no if we think it's not good for our community.
Right.
And I can also tell you that if you, something like that and you're afraid to state, we've got a new representative now. Harry Garcia was sworn in last Friday as well up there, and he's anxious to help our community. So you can give him a call and he'll fight some of those battles for us in Santa Fe.
And I don't think we have any more licenses that are free right now that can be passed around. The one from Pat's Bar went to Hobbs or somewhere.
Portales.
Portales, somewhere down south. So that one's out of our community, but,
And whose was this one that went to all?
this one was Town and Countries.
Ah, okay.
It got transferred over to Alsa.
Right, the other one was Sailfish, right? The one that went up on Roosevelt.
Yes,
Sailfish,
yes,
Okay.
Selfish.
So so really, they're, some places are shutting down, they're just moving it to
Moving
Alsace.
it to a new place, Alsop's buying them up.
Is there still rumor about Outlaws closing?
You know,
I've heard that he is.
his business is not doing well, and
Yeah.
he talked to me a few days ago about what might be some other businesses that would do well in grants. He has, in fact, he has a Pizza 9 franchise that he bought, and we're looking at possibly putting that in the library. We have a spot that we can put that, and I think it would be a good partnership, because then if we have a big training center there, they could cater to the lunches to the people in trainings. They don't have to leave the site to go get something to eat. It would give another place for the county complex staff to come in that area close by, in the high school, the college. So we're looking at a partnership, a public-private, where they could be housed inside the other half of the building.
And we're also looking at what can be done with the old First National Bank building as well. And we're going through the process now. We had it appraised, so now we have to get that approved by the state, that price that was given to us. Then we can either go out for sale, or we can do a lease with somebody if they want to come in and put something in that building.
So I guess there's a real possibility that, I think it's the King family that has the license for that? That Outlaws, if they close
No,
that, then
I
also
think
can pick
it's
that up?
Dwayne. I think he bought it off the King family.
I'm not sure, I'm just saying.
I don't
So if he
know.
does close, there's a real possibility that also, some amendments might try to pick up that license.
Oh.
They can't.
They can't?
No, well, see, Laura and I were discussing this the other day. The Allsup's lawyers made a good case to the city council that the property boundary, the old gas station, wasn't being used. So legally, technically, there still is a legal gray area there to where somebody, if they wish, could probably file a suit and put a stop to that. Because it falls within, I believe, the 1,000 feet.
From a church?
From a church, a school, and I forget what the other legal designations. The Allsups on Nimitz is well within that. It will, unless state law changes, which it's not going to anytime in the near future, it will never get a liquor license. I mean, it's gonna take an act of the legislature to change the.
Because of the church?
Because of the church, as long as it remains active. The issue I had with that First Street thing is, there is no designation. I mean, technically, they shouldn't have gotten the license, because whether it's used or not, it's still church property.
So I don't know if it's still up in the air. We might want to research that.
Yeah.
It might still can be stopped.
And what do you have? You would take the Methodist church to file the paperwork.
Well, and I know there, one of the elders from there is upset about it, so, you know, we might want to check. Yes?
Let's change the subject. We're new in the area, and I wanted to know what kind of backup emergency systems are in the town, you know, if we have a disaster like an earthquake or something, or the volcano decides to get excited, you know. But, what kind of backups? I mean, do we have system emergency systems?
I defer that to Tony, what the former.
I was the emergency manager for, what, 5 years, almost 6. And we have an emergency operations plan that was approved by the state. And it is in effect right now, and it's looked at on an annual basis and updated. That plan includes responses to any type of natural disaster, man-made disaster, and we have done training on it. We have agreements with surrounding areas to come in the event of an emergency and assist, and we also will go to their communities as well. But there are plans in place so that if something were to happen, the National Guard can be activated. They can bring in their generators, you know, their personnel. We can bring in water, potable water sources within 8 to 10 hours after the incident. We can activate the state's Emergency Operations Center as well. And we also have floodplain management. We have responses to flood issues. We do have response to earthquake in there as well. So it's a good comprehensive plan, and like I say, it has been approved by the state. So yes, we do have a plan for things that might possibly happen in this area.
Do you have a strategy for the public? I mean, is the public aware of what they need to do in case of emergencies and stuff? Or is it all going to be?
We did some training for what's called a CERT team, which is a Community Emergency Response Team, years ago under the previous county manager, emergency manager, Peggy Jordan. She did some training with that. There are CERT teams that would be able to come in because that one is no longer active. We haven't been able to get anybody to volunteer to go through the training program and everything in several years. But we do have groups that could assist us. We have the Ham Operators Club that can assist us with communications. We also have the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts that can come out and help as well, especially the Boy Scouts. Cub Scouts maybe not so much because they're younger. They'll go with their family if something were to happen. But we've got shelters identified in the area. We have agreements with 3 different shelters. We're working on a 4th one. The 3 shelters that we do have in place right now is Grants High School in the cafeteria. We have NMSU in their gym, and we also have the church there on Mountain Road.
Our gym at First Baptist.
Yes.
They did that before.
Yes, we did when we had the snowstorm where we were shut down in this area. The interstate was closed for approximately 14 hours. We had about estimated somewhere between 7,500 and about 9,000 people stuck in town for that amount of hours. We had shelters opened up. The churches are involved. They brought food. They brought blankets. We had pets there as well. And we're working on a 4th one with the Knights of Columbus for theirs right up the road here. They've done some improvements, and we're still working with Chris Madrid and his group towards that. So we do have those in place. We can get food drops in if we need to through the National Guard. We can get trucks in. American Red Cross is involved as well. So I think we're fairly prepared. You can never be prepared for every incident out there, but we do have a plan in place that will guide us through what we need to do in the event something does happen, irregardless whether it's flood issues, whether it's an earthquake, which we have had some earthquakes around here. You know, we're on a pretty good fault line. You can just look around and tell because all these mountains.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah. And then, you know, with Mount Taylor being a inactive volcano, it's not dormant by any means, but it is inactive. So we have actually got a plan in place to deal with most of it.
And when Tony was there, he did a good job because the fire department, we had the Rio San Jose was flooding. The fire department came up with sandbags to save the title building and to save our church by putting it in the parking lot. You know, they dialed it right up very quickly.
Right, and all our local fire departments will play a major role in that as well in any emergency we have, because they have EMTs, they have the ability to transport patients as well for Grants Fire anyway. And our Mount Taylor ambulance is also part of that and has been. And so everybody's...
is the public aware of where all these places are?
Yes, pretty much. It's been on the website. We've had training on it in the past.
Okay.
We've done public...
I've never been on the website, so...
Yeah, go to the county website, and you can look at it under the emergency management section. I believe he's got it on there. We just went active with our new website back in June. So if it's not on there, we'll make sure it is on there. Because there's certain sections of the plan that is not for public use. It's only for the first responders, and that's just a security issue that's required under Department of Homeland Security. Because the one thing we don't want terrorists or anybody that may be planning something to know what our responses are. And we have done training and drills for the schools as well for active shooters over the last several years. We've actually had 3 drills for responders that deal with active shooters. So we've done a decent job of trying to get our emergency responders prepared for incidents such as that.
Thanks.
Yeah, and even at the high school, they used to have these things that put come over the windows.
Yeah.
So nobody can look in the windows, and when they have a thing, they'll say there's an emergency.
Yeah, when they go into lockdown.
Lockdown, everything locks down, and the windows get shut, and so nobody can see anybody in the classroom.
Yeah, plus we're also part of the New Mexico All Source Information Center. And we get alerts. We just got one earlier this week, and it was a credible threat to a middle school somewhere in New Mexico. They did not advise us where, but there were several schools throughout the nation that were faxed messages from a terrorist organization, and one of them was here in New Mexico. Sir?
I noticed back here behind the middle school during the mornings and especially the afternoons, you know, you have children getting off on the bus and they across the roads and up Washington, and the traffic on Elm and Washington is real fast. And in the afternoons, I believe that there's an element hanging around the children up there that's not good. I want to know if we could have an officer from the Grants PD to be up in that area, especially down Elm Street in the afternoons. It's they don't stop for the stop signs or anything like this. And after the kids are on the bus, there's a lot of children, you know, walk back up to Washington Avenue, back down Elm. I think there's a problem that's going to be, if it could be nipped in the bud now, we wouldn't have a problem later on. And I noticed between, in the afternoons between Washington and Elm, especially from Elm down towards the park, if we could get Grants PD to kind of wander up down there and keep their eyes open, I think they'd see some problems that they could fix. And I think one of the kids, or more than one of the kids will get run over. I just got hit there this week by a lady that had no insurance or license, which is okay, I guess, you know. But I see a problem there, and I really think that it's a danger to the kids.
I know they've been patrolling in the morning, but I will let them know.
In the afternoon, they really need to keep their eyes open there. I agree.
Okay.
Like I say, I don't know why they have stop signs or anything, because how many people just zoom up and down. And then later on in the afternoon, as the buses are gone, there's still a lot of children there. If they could kind of keep an eye between where they get off the bus and up down Elm, I just think there's some people hanging around children should be.
Okay. And I've asked them to patrol that park because we've had lots of complaints about it. And like I said, I drove by the other night and I could see what the people are talking about. It looked like cars there hanging out, drug deals.
Mm-hmm. And first of the month, you can go down there and buy whatever you want.
Yeah, well, I've ordered more lights for the side of the park, and I'm going to block off where they can't park over on that dark side. And I've asked our police to be going down there, but I've also ordered, it's a solar light that'll be a flashing light on Elm there by the park.
Right.
They asked for a speed bump, and we're trying to not do any more speed humps because the roads are bumpy enough without them. And so I ordered a flashing light so that we could just warn people, you know, this is an area of children and kind of, you know, remind us to slow down there.
And as you come east and hit from Washington and Elm, and I talked to Miss Whitehorse about it the other day, the trees are hanging over the stop sign, and you can't see it. And there's a lot of those problems in that area.
Okay.
And he said he would go get in contact with whoever, you know, to get it done, so I'm satisfied there. I wasn't so worried about that as I am the speeders and the people that's hanging around after school down. That area seems to be getting pretty bad, especially in evenings. There's been a lot of the people wandering in neighborhoods that shouldn't be in around. But I noticed with the kids, some of the people that's hanging around shouldn't be.
Can we put out signs as illegal? I know they do it in Albuquerque, is certain times when they can park on the side of the streets. Like between 7:30 and say 9:30, you can't park because when you're driving through like that, I think it's Del Norte or Estancia, whatever that is, and you're making single lane traffic trying to get through the cars that are parked there, and you got kids that are walking the sidewalks. So what happens is they dart across and you can't see, and you're single lane, and what happens is there's a lot of people getting frustrated because you're getting traffic like this and people are getting, well, I'll go or you go, but I was wondering, just in the school zone areas between certain times, can the city regulate you can't park on the side of the streets during like pick-up and drop-off types.
Okay.
Just a suggestion, thank you very much.
I know Mr. Windhorse has put stickers on ones that are, you know, just abandoned there, not working. So we can definitely do that for those.
You know, I like what Santa Fe Avenue's doing. I mean, a lot of people are taking their pictures in front of that 66 sign. You see all the out-of-towners doing, you know? And then we had some relatives coming from out of town, they wanted a picture there too, you know, by the train. And we took them to the mining museum, you know, and they want to go across and do all that stuff. And you see all these people from out of state under that sign.
On a daily basis.
Yeah, something so simple, I think it's brought traffic in, and hopefully they're getting gas here and they're stopping to get something to eat, so we're hoping.
You know, like I was saying about the other thing about the other routes up to high school and everything, but up here in Santa Fe, it looks real good. It looks the best it's ever looked on Santa Fe.
Yeah, it does, thank you.
Yeah, it looks good, and all those, you know, things, and the other day you had that other Fiesta thing, or whatever it was, that was crowded, wasn't it? Yeah,
It was, a private individual hosted that
Right.
event, and it was a partial fundraiser for someone who has a medical issue,
Right.
and great turnout.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, great turnout.
It's a good thing you have a Fiesta too, that should be a good turnout too.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Yeah, I think she has about 20 booths signed up already, and she said she didn't have very many signed up for the cake decorating contest, so, you know, if any of you guys are cake
How many showed up
decorators.
for that race on the mountain? You have a lot of people.
There were 175 people, and they had a waiting list of about 18 people on the waiting list. They just got a permit for, you have to get a permit to host an event up on the mountain, and if you have over 175, you have to pay a fee or something, and so this group just did the 175 and did a waiting list, and they had about 18 on the waiting list, I heard.
Yeah.
Great event.
Yeah.
Yeah, great thing for our community.
Is there any progress on getting better internet? Because we're not going to get any good business in here if we don't have a
You're
good
right.
internet.
The Economic Development Foundation is working on that, and Tony and I are a part of that, and so is the Village of Milan. We're looking for funding. We just met with the EDA, the Economic Office at the state level, and there's funding available to apply for broadband. So we are trying to, I know the city voted, and I don't know it's on the county's infrastructure list priority, but the city put that as our #1 priority to increase broadband, because yes, we're going to need it for the new library, if we have a training center, the hospital needs it, the county needs it, the city needs it, and any new industry is going to want good internet. So yes.
And the public wants it.
Yes.
Because even in areas, because I live right off of Elkins Road by C&E Concrete. I'm less than a quarter of a mile from Milan's village limits, and I'm about an eighth of a mile from the city. But I can't get internet service there. I can't get cable there. I can't get, the only thing I get in the way of utilities is electricity. I can't get water. We have to have our own well. I can't get sewer because we're up on the side of the hill. So we need to get that infrastructure going where people can, and we can grow.
Yeah. Sacred Winds has really been doing a lot. I keep
Yes,
hearing
they
about
have.
them, and they're running cable. They ran to Milan and gave the Village of Milan a lot better capabilities, and then they've come down High Street.
Right.
So I think they're going to really be expanding in our community.
And CenturyLink is too. They've already run fiber optic up on Roosevelt because we have to have it at our building, and it is quite expensive. It's costing us a lot to get the fiber optic in there because it was never there. So it's slowly growing. It's just not growing fast enough.
Yes, ma'am.
I've lived a lot of different places, and I have some ideas about what you could do on 66. Where would I take it at? To
Bring
get
it
it
to-
out into the public, because it would have to be a public, it would have to be businessmen and women that want to start businesses, because there's a theme that you can go with. Because I've seen it work in other places that were dying, and they went with certain themes for a certain place in the middle of their town,
Yeah.
and it has saved their town, and it has to do with tourism.
Well, I'll get your number. We have a marketing team that's called Team 66, and we just started about a year ago. We meet about every 2 weeks at the Chamber of Commerce, but our focus is marketing grants. The thing we've been focusing on recently is Route 66, because there's a lot of people that still travel and want to see, even foreigners, that come to see Route 66, and we've never really promoted that well. And so we've begun to do that, but we'd love to hear your
And there's
ideas.
some large buildings down there, so there's a very, there's 2 or 3 different themes that I've seen.
Okay.
So it just depends on what you want to go with around
Okay,
here.
did you sign in on our sheet?
Yes, I did.
And your name?
Cindy Anderson.
Okay. I'll invite you to our next meeting.
Yeah, I'd like to go.
Well, is there anything else?
Thank you, guys.
If not, thank you for coming, and we'll see you all next month.